Okay, I will now call this public hearing of March 12th, 2024 to order. This meeting is convened by electronic means. As such, council members may participate in person or by electronic means. For councilors participating by electronic means, please ensure your video is turned on and let the clerk know if you leave the meeting for the purposes of confirming quorum. Council members are reminded that in accordance with Section 1413 of the Procedure Bylaw, members must enable their video to confirm quorum. If council member is attending by electronic means lose connection during the portion of the hearing, we will recess the meeting until the connection is restored. If council members lose connection during the voting process, staff will get you back online quickly while we suspend the voting process. The contact information has been circulated to you. Members of the public can view the proceedings via live stream and YouTube link, which will be posted on X. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We thank them for having cared for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. In case of an emergency where we need to evacuate the building, I would like to direct your attention to the exits. There are 2 exits beyond the glass doors and to the left. If these exits are obstructed, please direct your attention to the 4 exits in this chamber. Please use the stairs and do not use the elevator. I would also like to highlight that there is a defibrillator located at the end of the hallway outside of the council chamber. I also want to take the moment to recognize the immense contributions of the City of Vancouver's team members who work hard every day to help make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Sim has an LOA for the entire day. Councillor Carr, Councillor Kirby-Young, and Councillor Dominato, also for civic business, has an leave of absence for this evening. Councillor Bly, the same for civic business. And Councillor Boyle, the same for civic business. Councillor Fry, the same for civic business. Councillor Montague.
Present. Present, sorry.
Councillor Klassen is the acting mayor and the chair. Councillor Meisner. Councillor Jo.
Present.
The hearing has quorum. Acting Mayor Klassen.
Thank you. Before I begin, I have some announcements. The public may participate by speaking in person, by phone, or submitting a written comments to Mayor and Council. Speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. Speakers should also state whether they are in support or opposed to the recommendations and if they are a resident of Vancouver. Speakers may only speak once and should follow along on X at Van City Clerk for updates on the progress of the meeting so they don't miss their turn to speak. Any comments on agenda items can be submitted in writing through our online web form at Mayor and Council Public Hearing Feedback web form. This link will also be posted on X. For those speaking on behalf of 4 or more persons or groups, including a speaker, will have 8 minutes to speak, and only if those represented confirm by introducing themselves on the line or in person. Those who are represented by another speaker must not be individual speakers themselves. I also want to note the City of Vancouver's longstanding commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including utmost respect for all genders. I remind Council that when addressing speakers and staff, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. A reminder that Council's role at the public hearing is to be a quasi-judicial body, which means Council is only to consider the merits of the rezoning application or heritage designation. Council members may ask clarifying questions from speakers, including the applicant, or technical advice from staff, but should save debate for after the close of the speakers list. After hearing from speakers, Council may 1. Approve the application in principle, 2. Refuse the application, or 3. Refer the application to staff for further consideration. Finally, if Council does not conclude the hearing from all speakers this evening, We will recess and reconvene the meeting on Thursday, March 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. So item 1 is now before us. This is miscellaneous amendments concerning various CD1 bylaws. First of all, does any council member wish to declare a conflict of interest on this item? Seeing now, the clerk will read the application and the summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by the General Manager of Planning, Urban Design, and Sustainability to make miscellaneous amendments to bylaws for the following. CD1, in parentheses 531, for 105 to 167 West 2nd Avenue, and CD1, in parentheses 522, for 104 to 150 East 1st Avenue, to improve clarity, update references, correct inadvertent errors or omissions, and/or improve the administration of the bylaws. No correspondence was received for this item since referral to the public hearing.
Thank you very much. This is our first call for speakers. Any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by a participant code, which is 106-1445#, for the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. There will be an opportunity for new speakers and missed speakers to be added to the end of the registered speakers list. There is no staff presentation for this item, but I will ask if there are any questions from council to staff. And this is, okay, so we don't have anybody on the queue right now. Okay. Okay, so that was moved by Councillor Montague, seconded by Councillor Kirby-Young. Any discussion, or should we just, this is for item 1. One moment. Okay, so we will have a second call for speakers. So are we waiving a presentation from? Okay, so we have a motion to waive the second from Councillor Meisner, or moved by Councillor Carr, and.
Point of procedure, I don't think we need a motion to waive. I think we just usually canvass if there's any objections. It saves time so we can drive on.
Okay.
Yeah, usually it's just, does anybody want to hear it? Are there any objections? I believe we can do that.
Applicant is, right, so do we have any questions to staff? Councillor Kirby-Young, you're on the queue, but I assume that's not for you? Okay. Let's advance. Very good. Okay. All right, so this will be the second call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free at 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium before the close of the speakers list. Speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. Okay, we do not seem to have any speakers, so we'll make a third call for speakers, as there are no registered speakers for this item. So we'll now make a third call for speakers, and I will once again reiterate that if there are any speakers for this item, that they can please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the list. And the number is posted on our X at Van City Clerk. Okay, we will take a 5-minute recess to wait for any speakers to call in. We'll be back in 5.
Councillor Joe, we're going to be restarting. Thank you.
All right, we have not had any additional speakers. Clerk, is that correct?
I'm just checking, Chair.
Okay.
Just give me a moment. None on the line, and I believe I've checked with everybody. Nobody wishes to speak to item number 1. So yes, we're no further speakers.
Very good. Okay, seeing that there are literally no comments received after 5 p.m., I am now closing receipt of public comments. Staff, do you have any closing comments? No. Council, do you have any additional questions for staff? Okay. Okay, so now Councillor Montague is moving recommendations, and we have a second from Councillor Kirby-Young. All right, and Clerk, did we receive any additional comments since the close of public comments?
Just double checking, and no.
No, none. Very good. Okay. All right. We've already got a seconder and mover. We'll now make a decision. There are nobody's on the queue, so no debate. So we will now go to the voting panel, please. Councillor Kirby-Young. Okay, that passes with Councillors Dominato, Bly, Boyle, Fry, and Mayor Sim absent. All right, so that concludes item 1. So now we're going to item 2, CD1 rezoning, 1065 Pacific Street. Does any member of council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item 2? Okay, the clerk will now read the application and the summary of correspondence received, please. I will speak as close to the mic as possible. Thanks for bringing that up.
This is an application by Buttes Architecture Incorporated to rezone 1065 Pacific Street from RM-5A Residential District to CD-1 Comprehensive Development District to permit the development of a 32-story residential building with 180 secured rental units, of which 20% of the residential floor area will be secured as below market rental units. A floor space ratio of 11.2 and a height of 91.4 meters or 300 feet are proposed. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design, and Sustainability recommends approval, subject to conditions set out in the summary and recommendation. The following correspondence has been received since referral to the public hearing. 1 piece of correspondence in support, 4 pieces of correspondence in opposition, and 1 piece of correspondence regarding other aspects related to the application. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Okay, we have speakers on this item. Staff, do you have a presentation? Okay, then I think this is the time to hear that presentation. Thanks very much.
Good evening, Acting Mayor and Council. My name is Allison. I'm the rezoning planner on this application. I was just waiting for my presentation to share. Okay. The site is shown in red on this slide and is located on the north side of Pacific Street between Burrard and Thurlow Streets in the West End neighborhood. The area is well served by parks, public transit, bike routes, childcare centers, and community facilities, including the Vancouver Aquatic Centre. The site is currently zoned RM 5A and has a frontage of 99 feet along Pacific Street. It is currently occupied by a 3-story apartment building. There are 24 existing tenancies on the site, which are eligible under the city's tenant relocation and protection policy. This slide shows the lot and block context. The site is adjacent to a number of properties on the Vancouver Heritage Register, including 1386 and 1390 Thurlow Street to the west, and 1019 to 1049 Pacific Street to the east, which is the Pacific Heights Co-op. The application is subject to 3 policies, and I will go through each of them in turn. First, we have the West End Community Plan, which was adopted in 2013 and guides change over the next 30 years. The plan identifies villages, neighborhoods, and corridors. It locates additional density along the perimeter of the West End in the Georgia and Burrard corridors, with clear criteria for redevelopment, including height limits which maintain sunlight onto open spaces. The West End plan calls for tower development on sites with frontages of 130 feet. However, sites with lesser frontage can be considered when proposing secured rental housing. Second, the accompanying rezoning policy reinforces the plan's direction. Specifically, rezoning can be considered in Area E of the Burrard corridor if 25% of the floor area is social housing. Forms are managed by tower thickness and site frontages. In 2020, Council approved an alternative to the inclusionary social housing requirement in the Burrard corridor as a temporary program to enable additional rental housing in the West End, which in this presentation I will refer to as the secured rental policy option. Under this option, proposals can be considered for 100% secured rental housing in which a minimum of 20% of the residential floor area is secured as below market rental. This application came in under that option. The interim secured rental policy option was made into a permanent option of the West End rezoning policy by Council in March of 2023. Urban design performance is guided by the West End Tower Forum Siting and Setbacks Administrative Bulletin. The rezoning proposal is for a 32-story residential rental tower. The proposal contains 180 secured rental units, of which approximately 36 would be below market rental units. An FSR of 11.2 and a tower height of 300 feet are proposed. The application currently proposes 95 vehicle parking spaces over 5 levels, accessed via a car elevator from Young Lane. The average starting rents for below market and market rental units are shown on this table, as well as the average annual household incomes they serve. The average starting rents for below market units are to be discounted with a portion at 20% and a portion at 50% below CMHC average area rents. Based on CMHC data from the October 2022 rental market survey, rents for below market units would range from $670 for a studio to $2,500 for a 3-bedroom unit. In comparison, average starting rents for market units range from $1,940 for studios and $4,400 for 3-bedroom units. Approximately 9,139 postcards were distributed around the area, and a Q&A period was hosted between February 20th to March 12th, 2023. Members of the public supported the height, density, and massing, as well as the proposal for a new rental building with below-market rental units. Concern was noted from the public for the height and resulting shadowing. Members of the public also expressed concern about the site frontage of 99 feet, the proposed setbacks to neighboring properties, impacts on neighborhood character, noise and privacy impacts to neighbors, and the traffic and construction implications from the proposed building. Members of the public also noted concern about the proposed parking scheme. In response to feedback, the proposed height is in keeping with the plan's expectations, and the project demonstrates appropriate shadow performance. In terms of frontage, the plan does permit consideration of tower developments on sites with frontages of less than 130 feet for secured rental housing projects. Staff have included conditions in Appendix B of the report, which require the applicant to achieve 12-foot tower setback to the property to the west and 30 feet tower setback to the property line to the east. Conditions also require improving the relationship with neighboring properties and privacy impacts through the provision of planting buffers at the podium level. Regarding traffic and construction impacts, the developer is required to meet with and coordinate construction and street use with engineering prior to construction. the city's noise control bylaw also regulates construction noise impacts. The proposed parking scheme will be refined at the development permit stage. And staff do note that the recent amendments to the parking bylaw eliminated residential parking minimums to the west end, which will likely lead to revisions to the applicant's parking scheme at later permit stages. In addition to the secured rental housing and below market rental units, the total public benefits from this project are valued at approximately $2.3 million. This is made up of $2 million from utilities development cost levies and $288,000 for public art. In conclusion, the proposal aligns with planning policies and advances the city's mandate to deliver more secured rental housing in the West End. Staff recommends support for this application, subject to the conditions included in Appendix B of the report. We're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is our first call for speakers. Any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-8353. 8610, followed by participant code 1061445#. Before the close of the speakers list, the phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. There will be an opportunity for new speakers and missed speakers to be added to the end of the registered speakers list. So we would like to now hear from our first speaker.
Questions?
Oh, okay. Would the applicant team like to be able to speak to this? Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dirk Butchus. I'm the architect for the project. With me today is a representative from Wall Financial Corporation. And we're available to answer any questions, and we'll wait for the question period. Thank you.
Okay. I believe we have Councillor Kirby-Young on the queue. Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I do have a number of questions. The first one that I have that is for staff, and this is located next to the Pacific Heights Co-op and the beautiful kind of development that they have there. I wonder if you can tell us what's the age of the co-op and how many residents, and also if council were to approve this project, does this provide any restriction on the ability for the co-op to redevelop?
Thanks for your question. I'm not aware of the age of the co-op, but we can speak to development potential. We have Hiroko here from Development Planning who can respond to that.
I have a limited amount of time, so
Pardon me?
I have a limited amount of time, so if
Yes,
you
yeah.
can jump in,
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I'm Hiroko Kobayashi. I'm a development planner in Metro Core team. Yes, thank you for the question. So the actually proposal demonstrates that provides a demonstration of the sufficient tower separation to that scope site. And then based on the study, they are able to demonstrate that potentially 2 towers can be developed in the site. Although this, there are 7 heritage houses are identified, and then they are all significant. So they're highly recommended to high level of the retentions.
they're limited to, sorry, can you say the last part?
High level of the retentions is recommended for
Of
those
the-
houses.
I'm not sure. Can you explain that for me? I'm not sure I'm clear. What height level of the retention? So they are limited in height? Is it
No,
related?
it's those 7 houses identified as the heritage homes.
They have to be retained,
Yes.
but they can build above.
There are the apartment building behind of those houses. They are available for new developments.
Okay, does that apartment building have any constraints if this development goes ahead with respects to its form or its height?
Based on that demonstrated the plan, there are 2 towers can be developed on the site.
So no restrictions? They won't be, they won't have conditions or restrictions put upon them on the co-op?
We haven't really identified any major issues.
Have we thought about it?
Pardon me?
We haven't identified them. Have we actively looked at whether there could be any?
We have reviewed that the site analysis based on the provided drawings, yes.
Okay. The 20% of the below market in terms of the units, what does it look like in terms of overall amenity space in the building here? And how was the pro forma? Did it just yield the 20%, the standard that's required?
Thank you for your question. So in terms of the percentage, we did do a pro forma review, and it was determined that there was no additional lift and that that 20% was appropriate for, like in terms of a public benefit for the site. And then I'm not sure I understood your first question about amenity.
Well, in terms of amenities, what amenities are provided in the building for residents?
So there is a shared amenity proposed on the third level, and the entire third level, which is the first level at the lane, is all shared amenity.
Okay, is there any ability, you said there was a land lift here beyond the 20%?
There's no additional land lift. That was
is-
determined through the
That's
performance.
all eaten up by the 20% of below market units?
Yeah, according to the review by real estate staff, yes.
Okay, and those will be turnkey managed by the city, or how will those be handled?
Those, my understanding is that they're handled by the developer, but we do an assessment of the eligibility of tenants, correct? Yeah. Okay, so it is managed by the developer, but there's eligibility criteria and assessment that they have to undergo that's built into the conditions and housing agreement.
Okay, how will we check on that? How will we know that those units are going to the folks that need them when they're being delivered those below market rates?
Oh, if Annie, do you want to come with me? Okay, great. Thank you for the question, Councillor. So right now, we're undergoing a process of looking at monitoring all of the below market rental units in developer-led projects. So it is something that we're looking at. The monitoring is extremely important, but it isn't something that we've actually completed our review on. So REFM right now is working with non-market housing, and we're trying to actually get a construct to actually start monitoring
Okay,
the below
I'm
market
running out
rental.
of time. Have we monitored with this developer before, or is this an opportunity
This
to
is-
monitor on this site and pilot that?
I cannot answer that for the city of Vancouver. I don't know if Wall Financial has actually done a project with below market rental and has that
Would the
have those units been monitored?
Can the
Anybody
applicant say
answer
yes
that?
or no? Have they done a project with below market?
Grant Miles, and yes, we do have society that's capable of running.
Okay, the question was, have you done it before in Vancouver?
We're not, sorry, you can't be here without being at the podium, and we're out at time, so I'm afraid
Thank you,
we're
Chair.
Okay. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you. I noticed that the, in the report, it talks about the urban design panel commenting on, in the comments were captured in the conditions of approval, and that was particularly regarding the interface with the heritage homes. So I looked at the Appendix B, the conditions of approval, and it just says improve the interface with the heritage homes on Thurlow Street. I'm wondering, but perhaps you as staff and also the applicant would be willing to discuss what is intended or what the expectation is that we can expect about improving that interface so that the impact is less on the heritage homes.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. We will ensure that the improvements during the DP applications, but also I want to pass on to the architect for
Great.
their proposal. Thank you.
I believe that comment in Appendix B refers to the what I call the east property line towards Thurlow.
Yeah.
And so we had some surveying work done, determined where the existing windows are on the rear of those three homes on Thurlow, and made some adjustments to our elevation on that side. And we have a fairly significant walkway along that edge, but we've screened some of our own windows and living room spaces from those particular windows that we'd found.
Okay, the condition of approval, one of them is also around privacy landscaping. Can you describe what that might look like, or are you intending to use it between your building and the heritage homes, or in other places?
What does the landscaping look like?
Privacy landscaping is the.
I'm
I
sorry.
guess it's the term is in the condition of approval is privacy landscaping, which I'm
yes.
assuming it's to not have visual contact or to allow for the privacy of adjacent buildings and the residents there.
Yeah, I think we've added some hedging along that edge as well as the screening.
Okay,
So it's a physical screen as well as landscape screen.
right, right. Okay, that's it for my
Thank you.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Meisner.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My question is around the large blank wall on the east side of the building. I believe it's the elevator shaft. I'm just wondering what design interventions are planned there in terms of making that more appealing. I see in Figure 4, it's a blank wall from the rendering that I have here, and then in Figure 5, which appears to be in response to the UDP feedback, it's got some sort of design on it, and I just would love more information as to what that is. Is it lights or something different? Just looking at Figure 4 versus Figure 5 in our package.
Thanks for that question. Yeah, we've gone through a fairly extensive redesign after the urban design panel made some recommendations to us. And the second iteration of drawing that you see includes a significant shift in the floor plate towards the east to maintain the 12-foot setback along that west property line, excuse me. And then we've softened, I guess, the elevator wall with a series of small window openings in each corridor. So as you step out of each elevator on each floor, you'd have sort of a random pattern of these small, probably 1.5 or 2 foot square windows. So it gives you a little glimpse of what the city is happening towards the east, Broad Street and Broadbridge. And then there are balconies that wrap around that side of that building on the second iteration. So we've changed up quite a bit of the character of the building.
Okay, that's helpful. So those are windows, so small little dots on the.
That's correct.
Okay,
yes.
that's great. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, we will now hear from speakers. We have number 1 on our speakers list is Bill Stoven.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Bill Stoven. I'm a resident of Pacific Heights Co-op at 1035 Pacific Street next to the proposed development. I know little about architecture, engineering, and design, but I know one thing. This is an extremely dense high-rise being planned for a very small patch of land. The applicant wants to cram in a lot into this narrow frontage. The developers wanted to build closer to the side properties than allowed. The proposed third floor terrace extended east from the tower. My understanding is that it extends up to within 7 feet of our property. And this will be a main gathering place for the tenants overlooking the co-op's courtyard, the children's play area, and homes. And this is an incursion into our privacy, and the remedies to mitigate this problem are not satisfactory, councillors. We know the developer does not have enough space to build conventional ramps below ground for the 5-level below ground parkade, so it proposes 2 separate car elevators. And this will result in all kinds of consequences: traffic congestion, vehicles queuing up in the back lane. There are few, if any, of these kinds of elevators in a building like this one that's proposed here for Vancouver. What do we know about their reliability, about their efficiency? What independent studies have been done? What is also problematic is the conflation of this development across the lane from a 33-story high-rise being developed by Boza Properties. Like the 1065 development, the Boza development will have a parkade access from the back lane. Now, Young Lane is a pathway for drivers to access Burrard, and it's going to get worse. It's also a pathway for pedestrians. What's troubling is that construction on these 2 substantial concrete structures will overlap and add to this other high-rise projects in a 3-block area of our neighborhood, and perhaps you'll understand why we have concerns. I know rezoning requests are not about personal feelings, but I would add this. How would you like to be living comfortably in your home for 10 to 30 years, to wake up to a giant hole next to your property with all the associated issues that will ensue during the construction phase, such as noise, dust pollution, blocked roads, traffic congestion, and safety, all of which will be exacerbated by other high-rise projects in the neighborhood. Now, I hope you understand, councilors, that the 1065 development will disrupt our lives during the construction phase and the post-construction phase. In the city's efforts to promote and encourage affordable housing, which I and my neighbors support, I sincerely hope the city does not lose sight of the profound impact that the erection of high-rises like this one will have on thriving, livable communities. Ours is a community of some 200 people, a mix of families with children, seniors, a multicultural community, one that works and supports each other through meal programs and various charities. We have long supported the Greenest City Action Plan through a very active recycling program, a strong bicycling core, financial support for the installation of energy-saving measures in the parkade, including electric charging stations. And through our volunteer labor, we have fostered and cultivated a green, environmentally sustainable environment that constantly draws accolades from passers-by. And while our focus is on the future, we are committed to honoring our past, ensuring that there are 8 heritage homes central to our community, which began in 1985-86. Essential to this community are the resilient, structurally sound, preserved for future generations heritage homes. And we question how this development really integrates with the historical nature of these homes. So we implore the city to ensure this project, if approved tonight, if the rezoning is approved, makes radical changes to the plan in order to minimize the impact on residents in Pacific Heights Co-op, because this is a huge footprint on a small lot. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you very much. All right, our next registered speaker is Sanjeev Sandhu. Evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm one of the owners of the Heritage Houses on Thurlow Street. So I know there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with those houses. But I think I can safely speak for the other 2 owners of the properties that we feel that this project proposed by the Wall Group is way too big for this area, and they're trying to stick a very large building on a small patch of land. We have a West End plan, and we have guidelines. All the other developers in the area, Boza, I believe Intracorp, they're doing projects on the Thurlow corridor. They bought the right amount of land to get the density that they wanted, okay? Wall never approached us, and he's trying to basically stick a lot of density in a small little area. And I'm all for rental housing. In fact, I'm building a 18-story moderate income housing tower in the Olympic Village on land the exact same size as this. And I would never fathom sticking 33 stories on a 12,000 square foot lot. So, and he's asking for massive variances. He's pushing the tower very close to our properties on Thurlow Street, and this is going to impact our future development. 2 of the houses are on the Heritage Registry, but there's no encumbrances in redeveloping those 3 lots. So we have plans to redevelop those lots as well. What form that takes, we don't know right now, but if there's a 33-story tower next to us, we expect the same, and it gets approved for rezoning. We expect the city to approve our variances when we go in for our plan. And what's interesting is that I don't believe that there's been any traffic studies done by the Wall Group for this project. And, I could be mistaken, but I find that ironic that none were done. Also, there is car elevators. Bose, I believe, did one at the Jameson House, and they have actually talked to me, and they said it's an absolute nightmare to this day to operate. And they're handing out taxi vouchers when the elevators break down. So this is still a technology that hasn't been proven yet, and it's just going to add to congestion on Jung Lane. Like I said, I'm all for rental housing. I just think it should be scaled down massively on this site. It's just you're trying to stick too much in too small of an area. So if anybody has any questions about the houses on Thurlow, I'm more than happy to answer them, because the city, from their comments, has anticipated that there will be no development there. Well, I'm going to be very clear that there probably will be at some point. So that's my points for the day.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to make a second call for, sorry. Councillor Kirby Young.
Yeah, I'm on the queue for questions for the speaker, so sorry about that, speaker, if you can come back. Maybe the clerks can pause my time until they're there. Yeah, thank you. You probably heard my questions earlier with respects to development. So I'm interested to hear, you said you're potentially contemplating development. Would that be co-op or mixed tenure? Have you notionally contemplated what that would look like?
Well, we were always told from the beginning that the houses could never be orphaned if the 1065 site was to be redeveloped. But, now we're hearing different from planning. And we don't know exactly what we're going to do there. But, we want to do something. All three of us have talked about it. Apparently,
Can you clarify what the tenure is now? How, in terms of what's the tenure or around the current dwellings on the site?
Well, I just completely gutted and rebuilt the house at 1380 Thurlow Street. I just completed that last week.
Yeah, but are they co-ops?
They're just rental. They're market rental, and my neighbor lives in the house. She's got a few rental suites.
Okay.
She's here today.
So you're to the east of the building, just to be
I'm to the west of the building.
You're on the west.
Yes,
That's what I wanted.
and there is permanent shadowing over my neighbor's house, and I found that a little bit ironic because that's a livability issue, and that's why we don't have massive towers on Davie Street due to shadowing. But I mean, it's I had the feeling I felt like we were completely disregarded when the building was designed. The architects just said, obviously I could be interpreting this wrong, but I felt that the architects go, let's just push this thing up against the houses because we only have to deal with a few people. If we push it over towards a co-ops, now we got to deal with a bunch of co-op people, and that's going to be a big deal. So they said, hey, look, let's just push it. There's other variances. I don't know exactly what the setbacks are, but it's right up against our houses. And like I said, I felt it was too big.
Okay, and were you, did you have any formal opportunity for engagement with the applicant? Did they?
Absolutely nothing. They never once contacted us. They had told the city that they did, and we told planning, we go, no, they never spoke to us ever. They never even said anything.
Okay.
Their surveyors wanted to get access to our properties, which I gladly gave them. I didn't know what the plans were. I thought they were just surveying the site for purchase, and there was no dialogue whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for
you.
speaking.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. Now we'll do a second call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll free 1-833-353-8610. followed by participant code 1061445 for the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium before the close of the speakers list. And I believe we do have one. Speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. And now we will hear from the public. Clerk, do we have a speaker here?
Yes, thank you, Chair Claassen. I do believe we have a third speaker who signed up by the name of Vaughn.
Well, is it my turn to speak now?
It is, sir, yeah.
My name is Vaughn Evans, and I lived in the West End from April 1979 to August 1980. And I can remember when the homes on the south side of Pacific Street between Burrard Thurlow were torn down one by one, and I'm glad they kept the homes on the north side of Pacific Street there, because the West End has had three successful experiments in keeping single-family homes: the north side of Pacific Street, which is the focus of this meeting, and the Mole Hill, bounded by Butte, Thurlow, Comox, and Pendrell, and the area where the Barclay Manor is, bounded by, I think, Broughton, Nicola, Barclay, and Harrow. There's several reasons I want those houses retained, because single-family homes are better for children than apartment buildings. And looks what's happened in other places where they've built tall buildings, like in Yale Town and Falls Creek, with all the tall buildings. There's so many children that the school board just can't. Many schools in Surrey and Vancouver and other rapidly growing places have been on the waiting lists to get new schools built, because Vancouver and Surrey aren't the only cities that are growing fast. And like if they build more, because already they have a new community center in the West End, Cole Harbour, and I'm wondering if Lord Roberts School, it's the main school annex, would be able to cope the increasing number of children. You see, it's every. I might mention too that building the high-rise apartments would not solve a long-range problem of affordable housing. Like, let's suppose the 232-story apartments were being built, and let's assume each story has 10 units. So according to my arithmetic, 322, 640 in all units, and assuming a family to have 4 members, 2,500. Well, the population of Greater Vancouver and the Fraser Valley is said to be growing by about 40,000 every year, because according to one estimate, we will have 3 million people by July this year, and in the year 2044, million, and it's no light task to make the infrastructure, because the additional people need more libraries, more sewage and water infrastructure, more policemen and firemen, and the amount that the new people pay in property taxes doesn't begin to cover the increased costs that the additional people need. Like Surrey's having an awful time with it being the fastest growth of city. We don't want Vancouver to have the same problems that some of our other municipalities are having. Are there any questions you'd like to ask me?
Don't see anybody from council ready to ask any questions, but I really appreciate your comments and sharing some of the knowledge that you have of the West End community, Ron.
Oh, yeah, let's see, I guess my time is nearly up. It says 4:08, doesn't it?
We've got till 5 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I might say I was proud to have the West End my home. I was born in St. Paul's Hospital. When I was born, the West End had a lot of rooming houses and boarding houses, and so did the area, what we now call Yale Town. And my father was born on Pentrel and Bidwell, on a home that was still standing in 1972. We took a picture of it, and my grandmother lived for a short time at a little bungalow on Chilco and Pentrel, which was torn down about 1960. So my roots go very far in that 1 square mile.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for coming to speak tonight.
My pleasure. It's been a pleasure to speak at your meeting, and I will conclude. I admire the fine work that your city does in providing services to its people, like our libraries, our recreation centers, and last but not least, you city council, who works long hours to make Vancouver a city we can well be proud of.
Thank you very much, Ron.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do our third and final call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061-445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be posted on X and made available on a live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium. Okay, I think seeing that, one moment. Okay, I will think we'll take a 5-minute recess and see if anybody wants to call in to speak on this item. So we'll take a 5-minute recess now. Okay, we will reconvene. Okay, Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
Thank you, Chair. And yes, we have a speaker coming to the podium, but none further on the line.
Okay, thanks very much. And just a reminder for all the council to make sure to speak into their microphones clearly. We just had some, let's say, they're not hearing us very well. Okay, thanks very much. Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, thank you. And apologies if I feel or come off as underprepared. I didn't anticipate to speak, but felt compelled to. I'm the son of the owner of 1386 Thurlow. It's one of the heritage houses referred to here today. Look, I can appreciate council's kind of need to add density, but we have to weigh that against kind of the rules we've set for ourselves, particularly in the West End plan. And I think the common theme in terms of the opposals here has been that this project as proposed is just too big for its footprint, particularly around the frontage requirement. We have that frontage length designed for a reason. There's several other projects in this area that have kind of applied for similar sizes and densities, and they've all abided by that. And there's no reason why this project shouldn't either. A perfect example of evidence that this is too big for what they propose is the fact that they are proposing a car elevator instead of a ramp. You have to ask yourself, why is it they wouldn't do a ramp? And they'll probably answer to you, the site is too small otherwise. I can confirm to you as well that no, we have not had any dialogue with the developer. We've certainly been we've been proponents of the density in the area. I think there's other proposals we've looked at that incorporated the 3 houses, or at least some of the houses in that Thurlow stretch into the development itself, while retaining them and also allowing for a large enough footprint to actually allow for a ramp. We have not had that proposal from this developer. I also want to kind of clarify something. In the staff report, it says that staff didn't anticipate any development potential. I know one of the other developers kind of hinted that might be a thing. The houses are on the Heritage Register, but they're not designated. So there's no legal impediment to that development. The other thing I'd point out is on privacy. I don't think anyone's even looked at the designs. So there's an open-air amenity room proposed, and it's on the 3rd floor of this building, which is directly on the 2nd floor windows to those properties on Thurlow. And I know some of the kind of the counters have been, oh, well, we'll put up a screen on the windows, maybe we'll add some hedges, but this is an open air amenity room right beside our bedroom windows with maybe a few light hedges. I don't think that's very adequate and hasn't really thought about its actual integration into the site plan. And as kind of, again, as the son, as the kind of the representative from my mom, you know, again, we've been active in thinking about what the future of this site looks like, what that area looks like. And it's been kind of frustrating not even being kind of been in contact with this developer that's just kind of gone ahead on their own and put a 30-story tower beside, you know, what should have been, as the West End plan guides for, a tower in the park feel. If you look at the diagrams and designs this developer has provided to you, it doesn't look like a tower in the park. It literally looks like a massive building with a bunch of little buildings right beside it. A lot of those people that are concerned about this impact are here today. And they're telling you privacy is a concern, shadowing is a concern, the queuing in that lane is a concern thanks to the elevator. All of these things are real impacts, not just during the construction, but after it, lasting impacts that, you know, we have no control over other than today to highlight these issues to you. That's really all I had to say. Thank you.
And can I just ever neglect to ask you for your name and whether you live in the city of Vancouver?
Name is Gint Ostrens, G-I-N-T.
And do you live in the city of Vancouver?
I live on the edge of the West End, but my mother is the owner of one of the houses.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So, Clerk, do we have any other speakers? Okay. Counselor, do you have questions for the speaker? Okay, we're just waiting for questions for, okay.
I'm just checking, Chair, to see if there's any further speakers on the line. Just give me a moment. And if there's any further speakers for this item in the gallery, they would come forward. None further on the line.
Okay, thanks very much then. You're only allowed to speak once, Ron? Okay. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, we will now go to questions from council for staff and for the applicant.
Yeah, thanks.
Councilor Kirby?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have some follow-up questions, and let's start with the 20% below market units, because I was asking how we manage and have control over those. I'm asking the question, I'm conscious that there's a lot in the news right now about lawsuits filed by BC Housing, for example, alleging that affordable condo units in Victoria that were meant to help middle-income home buyers were purchased by people who already own property. And so I worry naturally around our below-market rental units, and how are we ensuring that they're going to go to people that need that rent level and support. And are we relying on the developer? We said we're looking to pilot that. I think there was an answer from staff earlier to manage it. So can I get more detail on how we're going to manage that, and if we can do that on this site? And can I get my timer restarted? Because I'm just starting now and I'm at 3.5 minutes.
I'm going to just stop, Councillor, just one moment. We missed a couple of details here, and I just wanted to quickly, first of all, we are going to close the speakers list now that we have no clear indication of new speakers, and that we do allow the opportunity for any closing comments from the applicant and from staff, and then we'll give you a chance to start fresh on the queue, Councillor. So there's no other comments received after 5 p.m. We're now closing receipt of public comments. Okay, so does the applicant have any closing comments?
Yes, we do. My name is Grant Miles. I'm with Wall Financial, the developer. I'd just like to address some of the things that were set up here today. First of all, this project is something the city really needs. It's purpose-built rental housing with low-income social housing component. The lot size of the project that's being used has been proven out in other areas of the city. We've developed taller buildings on smaller lots previously with great success. In discussion with the car elevator, we chose to use it as an efficiency kind of solution. Given the new enhanced or regulation for no parking in the West End, we could honestly remove it. We don't really need to have a car elevator if there's not a requirement for parking on the site any longer, or a very minimal requirement for parking on the site. So that can be addressed. In relation to the heritage homes, we believe we reached out to all the registered landowners. Sorry if we hadn't, but and then the Boza family does own another lot, which we have been in contact with them as well. The reason this site is somewhat constrained is because there's heritage designation on both sides of it. There's not much we can do with those heritage designated homes or developments. We're trying to do the best we can in conjunction with city staff to realize the potential of the purpose-built rental project in this area. We've worked with the city in good faith on a lot of projects. We would like to continue to do so. We've contributed a lot, and in the way of community amenities throughout our years in partnership with the city. We definitely will continue to do so. And we are here to address any concerns that the residents or the neighbors or staff or council may have. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. Does staff have any closing comments?
The only closing comment I'll make is that we looked up, and the co-op was built in 1985.
Okay, Now we will go to council, and I'll start your timer now.
Thanks, Chair. I will just repeat the question quickly to orient everybody around how we are going to have confidence or validity over the below market units, how they're rented to, and how manage that, and can we do that on this site?
Sure. Thanks for the question, Annie Mobiles with the housing team. You're right that in this case, it's 100% secured market rental building with 20% below market units that are owned and operated by the developer. And so they'll be responsible for the tenancies and occupying the building. The percentage of floor area that we secure as affordable, there will be income testing requirements. And so that developer, as they select tenants, will need to select tenants that qualify through income testing.
And how do we check that that's actually happening?
Yeah, and so Armin commented a little bit about that. So there's an annual reporting requirement that we secure through our housing agreement. So the developer will be obligated to send that to city staff, and we'll review that and can follow up accordingly if those units aren't meeting the affordability set out in the housing agreement.
Is there an opportunity to do anything further? I think there was a mention of potentially a pilot or a different way of managing that.
I think partly where many of these below market rental units are just coming on stream. And so I think really we're wanting to look at how that annual reporting is working as kind of a pilot approach, and we can enhance it as.
Thank you. I'm going to jump in just for time. So parking, 180 homes, 95 spaces, comment from the applicant that with the parking changes, they could have done less. Therefore, potentially we could have avoided this elevator car license under debate, but we're approving. Can you clarify where we are? This was coming in under a previous policy. The parking regulations changed since we were moving away from minimum parking, or where does this sit? Are they going to potentially change it after, or is council approving it that?
They are eligible for the new parking bylaw. So at their DP stage, they could come in with an application that meets those parking requirements, which is 0 residential parking. They still have to do visitor and accessible, but that could massively reduce the amount that they choose to propose if they want to meet that new parking bylaw.
And theoretically, the need for a parking elevator.
Theoretically, they'll have to figure that out as they work through their design, but potentially it could remove that.
In staff's conversations with the applicant, do you have a sense that there is an intention to reduce the parking or not?
We haven't had any discussions about their new parking scheme. I know that they've told us that they intend to, but I haven't seen any drawings there. I don't know if they've actually developed their development permit drawings yet.
Okay, and then there's a reference in the report to the requirement of the 20% below market, 35% have to be family units, but I didn't see that in the presentation, but that's still, that requirement still remains?
Yep, that's a requirement. So they are proposing one 3-bedroom unit for the below market, and the rest would be 2 bedrooms that would qualify for that.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Councillor Meisner.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just had some questions for staff, and actually just following up on the answer to one of Councillor Kirby-Young's questions, point of information through you. I think I have to do that at this point, right? Visitor parking. Why would we need visitor parking if we don't have parking for residents? What's the rationale for that?
Good evening, Casey Peters, Acting Director of the Rezoning Center. That was brought forward by our staff who do the parking regulation. We don't have those staff members with us here tonight.
But it would be required, the visitor parking?
The visitor and accessible parking is separate from the parking for residents. So when they made the changes at the end of last year, it did affect the parking requirements for residents, but they maintained the parking requirements for accessibility and for visitors.
Okay, totally understand the accessibility ones. The visitor one doesn't make any sense to me, so I'm glad that you flagged that.
We can take that comment back and share it with
because
our
there's many
colleagues.
buildings that don't have visitor parking. So to me, if they don't have residential parking, then why would they have visitor parking? Okay, I'll move on. Thanks for clarifying that. And I just want to also just get reassurance that this project with the height, with the setbacks, with the fact it's like pretty small lot for quite a tall building, it is compliant with West End plan. Could I get someone from staff to just come up and talk about that? Because there's been comments about variances being granted here and that sort of thing. Are we granting variances here for this development?
Thanks for the question, Teen Senior Rezoning Planner. In terms of its compliance, I would say the proposal in and of itself, it doesn't meet the frontage requirements, but there's a lot of discretion in the policy for the Director of Planning to waive that. So the Director of Planning in this case has decided to waive that. Furthermore, under the policy, they are allowed up to 6,600 square feet of a floor plate for the residential tower. This proposal, given its frontage is smaller, they've simultaneously shrunk the building to make sure that they are responding to the context. So I think the floor plate is somewhere around 4,800 square feet. So they're not actually exceeding any of our policies.
And was that discretion under the Director of Planning on the frontage, was that granted under the previous Director of Planning that's no longer at the city?
To my understanding, at the time of application, yes.
Okay. And the frontage, what is the frontage requirement in the West End plan?
It's 130 feet, and this one's 99 feet.
99, okay. But apart from the frontage, there's no other variances being...
Not that I know of. Allison can speak to the particular.
I'll add to the frontage piece too, because the West End Community Plan does explicitly say that there is discretion to reduce it to less than 130 feet if the project is contributing to the public benefit strategy, and that includes secured rental housing and below market housing. So it does specifically say that that is permitted. And then there are setback requirements, and we are requiring them to have 12 feet from the property, those heritage homes on Thurlow. And then there is variance permitted for the first level, the first two levels, for to a 7-foot setback to the co-op to the east. However, the tower has to be set back 30 feet. So the variances are the frontage, which is permitted through the plan, and then the setback for the first two levels of the building to the heritage co-op buildings.
Have we seen any other towers come forward under the West End plan that have had this variance on the like the frontage, like a frontage reduction that's similar?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
Yeah, typically they do meet the 130-foot requirement, but this site, I would say, through the rezoning process, came in with a formal inquiry and a formal application to ask for these variances in terms of the frontage. So that's when we evaluated it as such. So it went through a pretty rigorous process of evaluation.
Okay. I don't know, I'm really struggling with this one. We need the housing, we need the rental housing and below market, but it just seems like a very large building on a really small site.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. 3 questions now down to 1, thanks to my colleagues. We've heard some discussion about the heritage designation of the buildings, both the east and west. The report says that both buildings at 1386 and 1390 Thurlow Street are listed on the Vancouver Heritage Registry. And then it says that the 8 buildings on Pacific are also, quote, listed on the Vancouver Heritage Registry. But we're hearing that there is some sort of a difference in how they're designated, and I'm wondering if you could just explain the difference.
Thank you for the question. Kevin Span, Senior Development Planner, MetroCore Broadway. And I'll try not to, we don't have anybody from Heritage here, so I'll speak on their behalf and not lie on their behalf. So the difference between designation and heritage registry is really that designation means that a heritage asset has been brought forward to council for formal designation and all the protections that comes with, and that means that it is formally municipally designated. Being on the Heritage Registry, however, does come with the anticipation of protections and certain things that need to be sorted through if a Heritage Register building, whether it's A, B, or C, which the 2 sites are registered, I'm not sure what their designation is, A, B, or C. If those were to come forward with some sort of redevelopment, the expectation would be that they comply with the heritage policies, which broadly would anticipate a degree of retention, and if it's determined that those are not retainable, there are obligations that the applicant in that case would need to deliver to Director of Planning and to Council to demonstrate the reason why they can't be retained. But effectively, if you see them on the Heritage Registry, it means that they are identified as being valuable enough for potential designation through future development.
Okay, but none of these buildings have been actually designated.
To my knowledge, none are designated.
Okay.
They are all, however, on the Heritage Register.
Both the set of 8 and the 3.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Is that it,
That's
Councillor?
it. Thank you, Chair. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you. Like Councillor Montague, I'm down to one question after other ones have been asked, and that is really clarification on visitor parking. My understanding from a previous application that we looked at was that visitor, which was a number of, I think even a month or a half ago, was that visitor parking included or was there primarily for trades, for the vehicles that would come into service apartments within the building. So could you clarify that?
Hi, thank you for the question. Certainly, I think we can expect that trade parking would make up a component of the expectation for how visitor parking would be used, but it's also to work in tandem with street parking to accommodate people coming to visit the building. So I think we would expect it would be visitors for the residents as well.
Right. Okay. But it does include the trades.
Correct. If you had someone coming to work on your unit, you could have them park in that visitor space.
Great. Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so council will now make its decision on the application. Do we have a mover for the recommendations? All right, Councilor Montague, and do we have a seconder? Councilor Carr.
Sure, I'll second. Okay, yeah.
Councilor Carr, a second. All right. Okay, is there any debate, council? Okay, seeing no, clerks, please take us to the voting panel. Shit. Okay, so that passes with Councillor Meisner in opposition. Okay, so that concludes that item. Move on to item 3. CD1 rezoning for 2928 and 2930 Renfrew Street. Does any member of council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item 3? So I got the right. Okay, correction, just been passed to the, item 3 is the CD1 rezoning for 2108-2476 Cassiar Street and 2105 to 2394 Herman Drive, 3426 to 3476 East Fifth Avenue, and 2105 to 2191 Skeena Street, known as Skeena Terrace. This application by Perkins and Will rezone, sorry, one moment. Clerk will now read the application, a summary of correspondence received. Oh, and before I do that, can I just see if anybody wants to declare a conflict of interest on this item? Seeing none. Okay, go ahead, Clerk, please.
This is an application by Perkins and Will Architects Canada to rezone 2108 to 2476 Cassiar Street, 2105 to 2394 Hermon Street Drive, 3426 to 3476 East Fifth Avenue, and 2105 to 2022-91 Skeena Street Terrace from CD1 Comprehensive Development District to a new CD1 Comprehensive Development District to permit a multi-phased mixed-use development for Skeena Terrace with a total gross floor area of 148,798 square footage meters. A lot of square feet for footage, 1,601,119 square foot, contained in buildings ranging in height from 4 stories to 36 stories. The proposal includes 1,928 social housing units, commercial uses, a 74-space childcare facility, and community space. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design, and Sustainability recommends approval, subject to conditions set out in the summary and recommendation. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing. 1 piece of correspondence in support, 2 pieces of correspondence in opposition, and 1 piece of correspondence regarding other aspects related to the application. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Thank you very much. This is the first call for speakers. Any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061-445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. There will be an opportunity for new speakers and missed speakers to be added to the end of the registered speakers list. Since there are registered speakers for this item, I suggest we hear the staff presentation. We have staff from Planning, Urban Design, and Sustainability to present the application. We have 17 slides. Thanks very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, great. Good evening, Council. I'm Nick Danford, the rezoning planner managing the rezoning application at Skeena Terrace in the Hastings Sunrise neighborhood. So Council, this application comes before you this evening following almost 3 years of collaboration between BC Housing and the city to deliver this significant amount of affordable housing to the city stock. The Skeena Terrace site highlighted on the screen is a 10.8 acre site in East Vancouver near the Rupert SkyTrain station, just north of Lougheed Highway before you hit the Highway 1 underpass. The site, originally rezoned to CD1 11B in the 1960s, is the location of one of Vancouver's first social housing sites, managed and operated by BC Housing. The site contains 230 residential units in a number of low-rise residential buildings, housing almost 600 residents. Skeena Terrace is generally bounded by Fifth Avenue to the north, Skeena Street to the east, Lougheed Highway to the south, and Cassiar Street to the west. Herman Drive bisects the site. One of the defining features of the land is its topography and the established tree canopy. The site steeply slopes in elevation, declining from the northwest corner up near 5th and Cassiar, down to the southeast section by Skeena and Lougheed. With regards to the surrounding context, properties to the north and the west are currently zoned R11 and generally developed with single detached houses and low-rise multi-residential buildings. Okay, good. Properties to the south and the east are currently zoned I2 and contain industrial and large format commercial uses. So the site's fairly well served by transit and other amenities. The nearest bus stop is located at Lougheed and Skeena, serving the 99B line and the number 9 bus. The Rupert SkyTrain station is located within 400 meters of the center of the site. Skeena Street, adjacent, is Bikeway, and the Central Valley Greenway is also nearby. 3 parks are located within a kilometer of the site, as well the Hut, a programmed community space, is located on site with Thunderbird Community Center and Frog Hollow Neighborhood House also nearby. 2 childcare facilities are currently located within close proximity, and the site's within the catchment of Thunderbird Elementary and Vancouver Technical Secondary School. So in June 2022, Council approved the Skeena Terrace policy statement, which provides policy guidance to inform the review of any rezoning application for the site. The policy statement established guiding principles, objectives, and policies relating to the future redevelopment, including land use, density, building types and heights, mobility, affordability, and open spaces. The statement was developed in partnership with BC Housing and was informed by significant engagement with current tenants, the broader community, and key stakeholders. A number of additional policies and plans guide the proposed application. The site is located within a rapid transit area envisioned within the Vancouver Plan and within the provincially identified TOAs. The site is also within the study area for the Rupert and Renfrew Station Area Planning Program currently underway. Staff have worked closely with the Rupert Renfrew planning team to ensure that this rezoning proposal is consistent with the emerging directions of that process. Given the size of the site and tenure, the proposal also responds to the city's rezoning policy for sustainable large developments and housing Vancouver strategy. Now for the application. So the application proposes to rezone Skeena Terrace from the existing CD1 to a new CD1. The rezoning would permit multi-phased mixed-use development containing nearly 2,000 social housing units within just over 1.6 million square feet of floor area. These units would be contained within buildings ranging from 4 to 36 stories in height. Skeena Terrace is envisioned to be a primarily residential neighborhood with mixed uses to support everyday activities. The plan includes a network of interconnected pedestrian priority routes and public realm. In keeping with the policy statement principles, the site will be characterized by mid and high-rise development surrounding a connecting network of public open spaces. Ground-oriented units are proposed across the site to reinforce that fine-grained residential scale and activate the edges of those open spaces. Commercial uses are proposed along Skeena and Cassiar, fronting the respective streets, as well as the adjacent open spaces. The Hut community space is proposed to be replaced near the center of the site, adjacent to the Central Plaza along Herman Drive. A 74-space childcare facility is proposed to be located close by the Greenway and Central Plaza. The significant network of secured public open space is designed to welcome people to walk and roll into the heart of Skeena Terrace. The Still Creek Greenway, which is the wider of the spaces highlighted on the screen on the left, includes a central plaza across from the Thunderbird Community Center on Cassiar, framed by retail spaces and a new childcare facility. A visible stormwater feature will connect this new mixed-use node down through the heart of Skeena, past the Hut, and further on to the existing bus stop at Lougheed and Skeena. The space will include seating and areas for children's play and dog runs. The Muse, the second smaller east-west connector on the right, serves as an extension of 6th Avenue with a pedestrian connection down to Skeena Street and includes sport courts, public seating, and another stormwater feature. Street improvements to the central portion of Herman Drive will connect these two greenways and be designed as a people-first street by encouraging low vehicle volumes and speeds and providing an animated public realm experience. Complementing these key public open spaces outlined in the previous slide, the application proposes a series of 5 outdoor courtyards, or neighborhood rooms as we've referred to them, that are sited in response to the topography and the retention of the tree canopy. Each neighborhood room will be designed to support inclusive resident gathering, both passive and active recreation. The Housing Vancouver strategy seeks to deliver a range of housing tenures across the housing continuum. If approved, the project would result in the construction of nearly 2,000 social housing units. The application includes just over 45% of the units as 2-bedroom and 14% of units as 3 to 5 bedrooms. 30% of the residential units are to be occupied by households with incomes at or below the housing income limits, known as HILLs. The rental rates for such units will be no higher than 30% of the gross household income. Although the remaining units can be rented up to and including market rents, BC Housing will target the affordability outlined in the policy statement, which is 2/3 of the units, to be rented at households with incomes below HILLs. The site is secured with a housing agreement registered to the title to ensure that the site remains social housing for 60 years. 230 units currently exist on site with approximately 600 tenants. The city's tenant relocation and protection policy applies, and BC Housing has committed to providing all tenants with the support outlined in that policy. So the Skeena Terrace planning process was launched in January 2021. BC Housing and the city worked closely to engage current residents of the site and consulted with a broader range of stakeholder groups. This culminated in the adoption of the policy statement by council in June 2022. Through the rezoning application process, a 2-week virtual question and answer period was held in mid-June 2023. In addition, an in-person information session was held at the hut on site on June 14th. 60 folks attended the in-person session, and 46 pieces of correspondence were received through the application review process. Folks who provided comments in support of the proposal thought that the height and density was appropriate, appreciated the amount of social housing and affordable housing proposed, and thought that the amount of green space and gathering areas provided was would generally bring livability and vibrancy to the neighborhood. Folks did express some concern about the units next to Lougheed Highway, that they may have high exposure to noise and pollution, and that too much parking is proposed given the site's location to the station. So in response to the concerns raised, staff see the units fronting Lougheed Highway, those units would need to comply with the zoning and development bylaw, which includes regulation around the maximum noise levels for dwelling units. So an acoustic study demonstrating how these buildings meet that regulation would be required prior to development permit issuance. Also, there's exploration through the future stages of development would allow for emerging construction methods to be incorporated to improve any indoor acoustics and air quality. So per the city's CAC policy, projects that meet this definition of social housing are exempt from CACs. The intent of this redevelopment is to replace and expand the social housing capacity for the site. For this reason, the public benefit proposed from the application is the contribution to the city's social housing stock and delivery of a selection of in-kind amenities. In addition to the housing, the proposal includes a 74-space licensed childcare. BC Housing will retain ownership of the facility, and it will be operated by a nonprofit childcare provider selected by the owner. The proposal also includes a 5,000 square foot community space. The hut, as it's known, is proposed to be designed as a multi-purpose space that is flexible to different uses and programming, including both before and after school care, with a community serving kitchen, washrooms, and office space for administration. The hut replaces the existing community space on site and allows for the continuation of on-site programming and classes to be operated in conjunction with the Thunderbird Community Center. So this rezoning application represents a significant delivery of affordable housing, affordable publicly owned housing to the city. The proposed land use, housing mix, form of development, and public benefits are consistent with the intent of the Skeena Terrace policy statement. With the rezoning of the entire site, BC Housing would begin their phased approach to redevelopment of the site and apply for the applicable development permits as the next step. If approved, this application would contribute nearly 2,000 social housing units to the city's stock close to rapid transit. Staff recommend the application be approved, subject to conditions outlined in Appendix B, and are available for questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Do we have members of the applicant team here? Please come forward and very much.
No, no, perfect. I just don't know where my slides are. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, councillors, thank you for having us today. Cheryl Peters, Provincial Director, Redevelopment, BC Housing. Very excited about this project. There was 3 slides I was hoping to present. Thank you.
On that note.
Thank you very much. If we could go to, oh, That's okay. This is a pre-assessing. I'm told staff will share. That's not quite the right deck. We're briefer than that. That's okay. We'll just, actually, no, go back to that last slide. That's the slide I wanted to talk to. I wanted to talk about site phasing and some of the thoughtfulness that we put towards a tenant relocation. The goal for tenant relocation is to be as least disruptive to our current tenants as possible, recognizing that they've got needs and lives. We don't want to have them have the 230 existing residents move off the site, if at all possible. Phase 1, as you'll see on that slide shown in blue on the, I guess, according to the page. Oh, sorry, can you go back, please? Thank you. Just to the right in blue will be our first phase and accommodates about 230 units. But depending on household size, we're hoping that between phase 1 and phase 2 will accommodate all the replacement units for the existing housing, allowing for us to partner to build out the rest of the site. BC Housing will maintain title to the entire property as we phase and accommodate partnerships with our nonprofit and community housing sector, which could include co-ops, it could include nonprofits, it could include nonprofit purpose-built rental partnerships. We recognize that living in a construction zone for many will be quite challenging, so we are committed to WorkSafe BC regulations when it comes to dust control, noise control, all kinds of debris control and traffic control while we do that, again, being cognizant to the sensitivities of our existing tenants. And then hopefully, over time, we can build out the rest of the site within about 10 to 15 years. We are committed to supporting all of our tenants as we move them, again, as minimally numbered moves as possible. We will support them with moving needs as their households may change over time. And we're being very thoughtful. They've got lots of advance notice, recognizing many of them are accessing the school system and would want to stay stable during that time, ideally moving during summer and not throughout the school year. I will just, if I could, you know what, I'll just leave that one slide. We don't need to go through the rest of the slide deck. I can end on this last slide. I just wanted to commend that the partnership and collaboration that we have with your city staff has been incredible. We submitted for rezoning formally in February 2023, and here we are, 13 months later. That's a testament to the power of your rezoning department, Cynthia Lau and her team, Nick Danford and his team, and Dan Garrison, and I believe they call themselves the Housers team, have been incredible help. I would say constructively critical of our plans, which helps us build a better product. So thank you very much. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for passing along those great comments about our team. All right, Council, do you have any questions for applicant? Anybody care to ask any questions to the applicant? This is your only chance, your only opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Okay, Councillor Carr.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I do have questions for applicant and staff, so thank you so much. I'm very interested in the relocation or the housing of the current tenants, so thank you for attending to that. So basically, all of the, so you're going to, are the units that you're going to be building going to be appropriate for the size of families or units that are currently there so that they can move into that mostly the first phase, but maybe first phase and second? Is that right?
Yes, so the expectation and the promise to the community is that the existing units, you'll have a 1-for-1 replacement. So a 2-bedroom is for a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom is for a 3-bedroom. Sizes may differ. Granted, those buildings were built in the 50s-ish. We have different design ways to design flow and through a unit today. So configuration may change, orientation may change. Some of those units today are ground-oriented. You'll be up into an apartment, up into the air, so slightly different configuration, but you'll still get a 2-bedroom. The conditions, and everybody who currently lives on the site, if you have to move off, you will have first right of refusal to come back. Having experienced relocations on other BC housing projects, sometimes tenants move interim, establish roots, and don't want to come back. We give them that option. If the household changes for whatever reason, empty nesters, new children, you have elderly dependents come into your household, we'll try our best to accommodate that as well.
Is that right? Okay. I am very interested in the comment you did make also about right sizing the units to families, and we've seen some, in some other parts of the city, especially in co-ops, where it starts off as a family unit, 3-bedroom, and then the children leave, and there's a real difficult time in downsizing with the compliance of the tenants. How do you manage that?
So in partnership with our nonprofits, now most of our clients that come through, and when I speak to clients, I mean BC Housing's tenants, as well as our nonprofit tenants, all of our clients, they come through the housing registry. And so we're able to accommodate their housing needs at that time. If they change over time, again, we're trying to, as you say, right size their housing. We'll deal with it as they come up. But that goes for not just housing needs, but also accessibility needs as well.
Great, thank you. I've got other questions for staff if you
Sure.
don't. Thank you. Okay, so tree protection, canopy protection. There is I remember from earlier iterations of this that there were a lot of trees, especially, and I guess it would be the northwest corner of the site. You say you're trying to retain as many trees as possible. Really, how much of the canopy are you going to be able to retain? Like 50%, 60, 80? I have no idea.
Thanks for the question, Councillor. Derek Robinson, Development Planner. I don't have the exact percentage, but I can say that absolutely the retention of mature tree canopy on this site has been kind of one of the founding principles in terms of the open space design. We don't see this level of tree retention typically. Obviously, being a large site, there's kind of additional opportunities for that, but not only along the edges of this site, but also kind of throughout the center of the site. And again, one of the sort of principles in terms of the open space planning is connected soil and actually taking really an ecological perspective. So not just having kind of one tree isolated, but having groups of trees.
Great.
Thank you, Derek. Your urban design team studio has held me very accountable to things like cooling, passive cooling in common area spaces. Tree retention is very large for us as far as mature trees and what they provide for being able to bring passive interactions for social well-being. And for any trees that we do remove, we will have at least a 2 or 3 to 1 replacement policy for any of those trees.
Excellent. I have no idea of my time. My timer's hidden by other. Oh, so I still have a minute. That's great. The original landscape design was done by Cornelia Oberlander. So are there any other elements of that design, or other than the trees that are being retained, like in terms of the open spaces that you plan, the corridors, et cetera?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think, the topography is obviously a key element, a defining element of this site. And so in terms of some of both the north-south and the east-west kind of connections, some of those open spaces and some of the kind of defining slopes that you see on the site today would be retained. But absolutely, I think, again, the landscape architect team with the on the applicant side, I was able to speak to her actually about the landscape, and she noted some specific kind of stands of pine trees and that are going to be retained as part of the proposal.
That's great. And Still Creek, the water.
Councillor, you're.
Oh, I'm out?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councillors, first of all, this is the second call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061 445#. Before the close of the speakers list, the phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium before the close of the speakers list. Speakers have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. We'll now hear from the public. We have one speaker on our list, and that is Nathan Davidovitz. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you, Acting Mayor and Councillors. I previously spoke on this item at the July 19, 2022 Council meeting. Skinner Terrace is better than Little Mountain project where the BC government sold the land. However, there could be many improvements to the housing plan for Skinner Terrace. Each new building should be approved separately instead of you approving all the 15 buildings together tonight. And this is done in other city councils where they don't approve all the buildings at one time. Not much changed since 2022. BC's housing and city staff do not understand what many of our academics are saying about affordable low-income housing and how far is BC and Canada in implementing various policies that are done in other cities. Just listen to yesterday 32-minute podcast on City News CKWX, the big story podcast, how are other countries dealing with the housing crisis. And that will give you some ideas where we are going wrong. Was that? No. The only change is that since 2022, the BC government finally listened to myself and others and established a BC Ministry of Housing. But it will take many years to close BC Housing or BC Housing Management Commission, as there are many contracts that cannot be transferred overnight. Skinner Terrace could be way better model community. I send you an example from Arizona where a 17-acre car-free community has been built. No reason why this cannot be done here. Vancouver is way behind other cities in eliminating minimum parking requirements. It's up to City Council to move ahead and tell staff to implement new rules for parking and traffic in the city. Staff would not do anything substantial unless City Council micromanage them like the city did in the Gastown Water Street after staff delayed that project for 15 years. And thank you, Councillor, for bringing it forward after 15 years, you know. We need BC-wide tenants relocation plan instead of each city having a different plan. You know, it just doesn't make any sense not to have a proper provincial plan. There are many housing projects in the city similar to Skinner Terrace. These projects will come up for redevelopment in the next few years because they're also getting very old. And we're going to make the same mistake that we made at Skinner Terrace unless City Council requests a better model. I'm not sure where all the other community groups are and where their letters of support or not support of this project or what their requirements are. But I mean, I know I used to communicate with Frog Hollow Neighborhood House, but I don't know what happened. But anyhow, thanks very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, I think we have one more speaker, David Lavallee. David, come to the podium. Can you just confirm if you live in the city of Vancouver?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Okay, you have 5 minutes.
My name is David Lavallee. I live in Skinner Terrace. I reside there. If you turn back to the first slide that was shown, where all the buildings, all the towers are, has anybody ever driven by there? Do you think you can put 6 of those buildings on that little block? It's you know, they're going to be really close together. Some of the groups I've heard before, meetings were saying that the buildings will be close. There isn't that room for that gap that's shown on that slide. You know, and parking, there's industrial, there's not industrial across the street. So like, I mean, if we don't have like, I mean, one of the slides, one of the things that there's a 45 car parking lot. You've got 4 40 floor towers. Where's everybody going to park? It's, you know, it's, and that's just before construction. For us, I mean, I agree with the project, but I think that the amount of towers that are there, it's just unreal. It's unfeasible. As I said, if you ever driven by there, because from Skeena and Lougheed to Skeena and Fifth, it's probably about the size of a football field and a half, maybe. Do you want to put 3 buildings there? Yeah, you know, I don't know. That's difficult. We're also in East Van, so our crime rate, our drug rate, well, way back then we were social housing, and then we went to hard to house. So we have everybody there. We have everything there. We got, you know, like, I mean, at one moment, at one point, there was a senior that got injured there. She got molested. She was 82. I mean, you know, where was the safety that we have in this? It's just, I find it difficult. If we're going to have buildings, let's designate some. I was also told that some of these places are going to be sold at fair market value. Now, if this is BC housing, we have all these people that are, oh, they have no place to live, no place to live. Here it is. I also heard about the housing registry. The housing registry is about 6-7 years long. You know, I agree with it. It's just that I don't know how to improve. You know, how we could improve this. We are, as I said, on the east side. You know, we're not in. You know, we're dark and evil and sinister and stuff like that. We got cops, ambulances, fire trucks there all the time. You know, like, I mean, how are you going to improve that by, you know, oh, there's a nice shiny window, or there's a rest area. I mean, what they call it, a common space. You'll find needles, you'll find, you know, stuff that you would find in a park there. We have kids. When they knock down those buildings, the outside is covered in asbestos. Now, are they going to seal the buildings up before they knock them down, take all the asbestos off? They were built in 1952 and they were used as army housings. So the inside and the outside are asbestos. You know, like, I mean, as I heard from somebody, they're going in phases. What stops the phase? What prevents somebody from a child or 2 kids, 2 young ones, from having to be woken up at 7 a.m.? You know, like, I mean, you know, like, I mean, I understand that. I feel like I'm going in circles myself because I didn't really come as prepared as I thought. I felt like I needed to speak. But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's the area that we live in. And I think that the proposal looks nice, but is it feasible? And as the man in front of me said, maybe 1 building at a time would be easier. Because there's no way you're going to get 6 of those apartment buildings, or at least 3 on Skeena Street. I'm sorry, like, I mean, not with what they want on the back end. Anyway, I want to appreciate, I thank you very much all, Chair. Thank you for my time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming to speak. Okay. All right. This is the clerk. Are there any further speakers in the line right now?
Let me check. No, we have no speakers on the line.
Very good. So this is the third and final call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll free at 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061-445#. Before the close of the speakers list, the phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber could please come forward to the podium. And so now we will hold a 5-minute recess to see if other speakers will call in. So we'll just take a 5-minute recess.
Hi, speaker with the last four digits, 4591. Did you want to speak to this item?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I get your name, please?
Sure. My name is Douglas Chidley.
Okay. Okay, I'm
Okay, we will reconvene this meeting. Clerk, is there any speakers?
Yes, Chair Clausen, I understand there's a speaker on the line for this item.
Okay. Speaker, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, sir.
Oh, can you give us your name and whether you're a resident of the City of Vancouver, please?
Hi, my name is Douglas Chidley, and I am a resident of Skeena Terrace in Vancouver.
Okay, very good. You have 5 minutes.
Oh, I just have two questions. I just wanted to know if BC Housing is committed to keeping the existing tenants that want to remain at Skeena Terrace in as close around together in these buildings as possible, and will these buildings be managed by BC Housing?
Okay. We can put that question to allow the applicant to have a final comment, just to make clarify your question for you. We don't do questions to the applicants from our speakers, but they heard it definitely, and they'll be able to make a comment. So thank you very much. Any other comments you care to make?
No, thank you. That was it.
Okay. Just listen in, and I'm sure you'll hear the answer. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, just one more check to see if there are any other speakers.
Just double checking, and no further speakers unless there's somebody here.
Okay, seeing that there are little or no more comments received after 5 p.m., I'm now closing the receipt of public comments. All right, does the applicant, sorry, pardon me. Oh. Okay, so seeing there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed and the public comments are closed. Thanks very much. Okay, does the applicant have any closing comments?
Thank you, Chair. And with respect to the last speaker and the question about tenant accommodations and making sure that they are co-located, I can't make any certainties. Again, our operations staff do our best to meet everybody's individual needs where they're at the time of move. Not everybody will need to move all at once, right? So the first 32 residents affected in the blue area on phase 1 are being worked with today. And again, that makes way for space to build our first 230 units. In all likelihood, it will not accommodate all of our 230 units like for like, so it'll be over phase 1 and phase 2, but we will try our best to accommodate everybody's needs.
Very good. And I know there were some other comments, if you want to maybe respond to any other comments that were made tonight.
If you could kindly remind me of the questions.
Just one moment.
Oh, BC Housing management of units.
Yeah.
The current site is managed by BC Housing. We consider them as our tenants, meaning their agreements are directly with us. Those will continue for the replacement units. Ongoing net new units, as we call them, will be in partnership with our nonprofit sector or our community housing sector, which, as they receive funding and financing assistance from us, will be under an operating agreement with us, which will require that, again, they comply with our general practice. As it pertains to safety, I will admit that I'm not operations staff. We do strive for safety and well-being, warm, safe, dry in every case in housing at BC Housing. We will continue to do the same. We know the site has had challenges in the past. Just Google. But we do strive, especially with new design, set expectations, as well as surveillance, et cetera, and the ability to create spaces that are activated will help with that.
All right, thank you very much. All right, does staff have any closing comments?
Closing comments.
Okay, thanks very much then. Okay, Council, do you have any questions for staff? I see Councillor Carr. Councillor Carr, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I just had one further question that hadn't been raised, but I was reading through the report, and in Schedule B, it notes urban agriculture. Section 1.17A, urban agriculture as a potential, and I'm wondering, specifically given climate change and the real threat to global production of food, if this is going to be on any kind of scale or if it's just something much smaller.
Thanks for the question. So the urban agriculture components are a response to the large sustainable sites policy. And so those details of what that urban agriculture will look like is kind of to be defined through the further processes of the development permit. And so as the site gets built out, the opportunities for that urban agriculture in discussion with BC Housing could take place, and could be a variety of forms depending on those discussions.
Okay. Okay, I'm sure it's going to be a subject of much discussion as we wend our way through the next number of years.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Chair, I don't see anyone else in the queue. I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor, seconded by Councillor Kirby-Young. Okay, council now make its decision in this application. We have a mover and a seconder. Is there any comments and debate? Okay, Councillor Carr.
Well, I'll just go to the end, sorry. I'll let Councillor Meisner go.
Okay, Councillor Meisner?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just wanted to say, excited to see this project moving forward. I believe this is the largest social housing redevelopment in Vancouver's history at almost 2,000 social housing units, which is very impressive, and it will really maximize the land that's there to create the most amount of housing possible. There were some comments about the number of towers, et cetera, but I think comparing it to other projects around the city, it actually has quite a bit of open space, and I think that the applicant has done a great job responding to the site in terms of urban design. So I'm very happy to see this move forward, and it's great that it will be creating many homes for people here in the city that we desperately need, that are affordable and designed for families. So I will definitely be supporting this.
Thanks very much. Oh, I guess I'm on the queue next. I'm going to cede the chair to Councillor Meisner so I can just make a couple of quick comments. Thanks very much. Advance myself here. I just also want to echo some of the comments here. I think this is an absolutely incredibly exciting project, not only for the number of housing units, but it's the potential to really transform an area that obviously was established for social housing in another time. And just looking at the site design, the dedication to sort of some of the natural settings, the thoughtfulness of how the site is actually being designed with regards to the curved terrain and the adjacent neighborhood. I just have to give a shout out to not only the architects, but also the people, including our city staff, who work very hard to try and bring this application forward. And I'm really excited to be at this stage so we can actually start to have shovels in the ground. And I know that BC Housing has a terrific track record of working closely with existing tenants, and that over the time that it will take, and it's going to take a long time to complete the site, that we'll have the ability to work with the existing tenants on the site as well. So well done, everybody, and I can't wait to start seeing this project get underway. So I will now advance to Councillor Carr.
Thanks very much. I'm very happy to have moved into to be supporting this project. And let me just start by thanking staff for their work on it. It's lovely when an applicant comes forward and says, "Love working our staff, got this project here in 13 months." So thank you for that work and for the thoughtful work before that, to develop the concept plan, etc. And to BC Housing, just my very heartfelt thanks for the partnership and the comments that you made here today, which shows a real genuine desire to be a great partner in delivering such needed housing within the city of Vancouver. So that's and real thoughtfulness around the tenants who are there now, the residents who are there, and seeing that their desire to be kept on site and kept together is going to be well thought through by you. This really ticks a lot of boxes for me, and as Councillor Meisner said, this is the largest project of social housing in the history of Vancouver. Yay! We need more of it. And we are really, by this project, I think, moving the dial in the right direction in terms of delivering the right kind of housing for the people who need it the most. I love the degree of affordability. Anytime I see a project that says we're going to be delivering 30%, we're going to be delivering a share of housing, 30% of the units at Hills, no more than 30% of income, I'm a happy camper, because the need at that level, the number of people who need housing with those kinds of targets around the affordability it's crucial. It's way too many people in this city, and we have way too little housing to serve their needs. Also, the large size of the units, 2 to 5 bedrooms. We don't hardly ever get 5 bedrooms at the council table. I understand there's a desire to increase the number of 3 to 5 unit suites or bedroom suites to a higher percentage, and I'm hopeful that that can be accommodated. And finally, the attention to ecology. This is a very significant site in terms of ecology with Still Creek. So the attention being paid to that water course and the ecology of the site, not only in terms of the water course, but in terms of the retention of mature trees, also big tick mark, and the fact that those trees are considered to be important for climate purposes and shade, rang really true with me in terms of thoughtfulness. So for all those reasons, happy to be supportive here.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. All right, I'll now call the vote. Clerk, can please take us to the voting panel. Okay, that passes with all councillors present voting in favor. All right, we will now move on to item 4, shared kick-scooter pilot bylaw amendments. Council, does any member wish to declare conflict of interest on this item? Seeing none, the clerk will now read the application and a summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by the General Manager of Engineering Services to amend various bylaws to license and regulate the operation of shared e-scooters and the implementation of a shared e-scooter system. These changes seek to amend street and traffic bylaw, zoning and development bylaw, including various district schedules, the CD1 bylaws, which are site-specific, the sign bylaw, city land regulation bylaw, building bylaw, license bylaw, street vending bylaw, vehicles for hire bylaw, and the Granville Mall bylaw. No correspondence was received for this item since referral to the public hearing.
Sorry about that. All right, so this is the first call for speakers. Any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll free at 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061-445# before the close of the speakers list. Phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. There will be an opportunity for new speakers and missed speakers to be added at the end of the registered speakers list. Since there are registered speakers for this item, I suggest that we hear from the staff presentation. We don't have speakers. I realize that we don't. It's in my script though. Okay. Would you like to waive the presentation? Okay. Moved and seconded by Councillor Meiser. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We will waive the staff presentation. Thanks very much. Okay. Since there are no registered speakers, can I get a mover for? Okay, I'm going to call it. Okay. All right. So we are going to make the second call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061445 before the close of the speakers list, and the phone number is posted on X and made available on the live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium before the close of the speakers list. Speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. All right.
I'm just checking, Chair. We still have no speakers at this point.
Okay. I'll make a third and final call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061445 before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be posted on X and made available on the live stream. Any speaker in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium. And we'll now take a 5-minute recess and wait for any additional speakers.
I'm sorry.
Hello, speaker with the last 4 digits 0180. Did you want to speak?
Okay, we will reconvene this meeting. Clerk, can you let me know if there are any additional speakers? Ron,
Just,
pardon me. Ron, can you just, no, thanks.
okay, I'm just double checking on any additional speakers. I was told none in the gallery. And yes, we do have 2 additional speakers.
Okay, we'll hear from them now. Is the first speaker on the line?
Yep. Hello, I'm on the line.
Hi there. Can you tell us your name and where you live in the city of Vancouver?
Hi, thanks, Councillor Clausen. My name is Jay Buchanan, and I live in Kitsilano.
Very good. Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Great. I won't take that. I just wanted to call in to say a couple of quick things. First of all, it's overall great that the city is pursuing shared electric kick scooters as a viable transportation option in the city. And just one thing I wanted to say I thought was particularly well done is having shared scooter stations where they can be parked. Oh. And it looks like you maybe can't hear me, but let me know if you can't. That goes a long way to buy-in because they reduces the potential clutter of scooters around. But I think the most important point I want to make about the adoption of scooters is they are small and people who ride them won't have protection the same way somebody in a car will, or even somebody on a motorcycle who might wear motorcycle helmet or protective gear. So it underscores the need for a lot more safe infrastructure in our city. They're speed governed, so they, will work well on if there's going to be spaces where they're sharing the street with cars on streets where traffic speeds are reduced to 30 kilometers per hour to align with speeds for scooters. More importantly, having protected infrastructure across our city is critical if we're going to be having electric scooters in addition to regular bikes, electric scooters, et cetera, electric wheelchairs, et cetera, to make sure that we don't see an uptick in people being, severely injured or killed in crashes as a result of the program.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Councillor. Great work.
Okay. Do we have another speaker?
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you just give us your name and if you live in the city of Vancouver, please?
Yeah, hi. My name is Mihai, and yeah, I live in Fairview in Vancouver.
Excellent. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. I'll be quick also. First of all, I just want to say I'm definitely strongly supportive of this motion, and I want to say thanks to Councillor Kirby-Young especially. I know she's worked really hard on it for the past few years, even I think into last council. So big thank you for pushing it through to this point. Basically, just want to echo actually what the speaker before me said. So I've been to a lot of cities around the world, and they introduce these programs, and often they end up quite unpopular. And there's, I think, 2 main reasons for it. One is sometimes they do have a tragedy because, like the speaker before me said, the users are not as well protected. They're sharing space with cars. And all it takes is, one kid or one teenager, anyone being in a really bad accident, and suddenly everyone turns against them. And, obviously we don't want these crashes to happen. And then the other reason is that they end up being ridden on sidewalks a lot because people don't feel safe in the road. And then people on sidewalks, be it just people walking, people on wheelchairs, end up super frustrated with them, and it kind of poisons the water against scooters. And often cities even roll out these programs and have to roll them back or even totally cancel them because they prove to be so unpopular. So I want to really see that avoided in Vancouver. I want this to be a big success. So just going to encourage council to pass this, but then to think about the fact that we need a network of mobility lanes that are protected from cars so that people using scooters can feel safe riding in these lanes, don't end up on the sidewalk, don't end up in a horrible crash, and that the program's a really big success. So I want to thank again council and staff for their work on this. I'm really happy to support it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Clerk, are there any more speakers?
Just doing the last double check, and no further speakers on the line.
Okay, thanks very much. So seeing that there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And seeing as that there are little or no comments received after 5 p.m., I'm now closing the receipt of public comments. Does staff have any closing comments?
Thank you, Council. Danielle Wiley, Branch Manager, Street Use Management. And just one simple closing comment. A yellow memo was circulated to Council and posted for the public that makes note of some minor errors in the zoning and development bylaw and in the sign bylaw. And so staff recommends that yellow memo is integrated into the report recommendations to address those errors.
Excellent, thanks very much. Okay, does council have any questions for staff?
Happy to move the recommendations with the yellow memo,
Okay.
Chair, and speak to it.
Thanks very much. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Carr. All right. Councillor Kirby-Young, questions for staff?
No, I'm going to move on to comments now that we've moved it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I have a question, so I'm going to advance you, and you can put yourself back in the queue. I'll cede the chair to Councillor Meisner for a quick question. I just wouldn't want to. There was a couple of mentions from speakers just regards to the safety and use of sidewalks. I have only limited experience myself of using the shared scooters in other municipalities, other jurisdictions, and I know that there are things like geofencing that prevent going on certain different areas. But I also have heard from people who've had sort of either brushes with people riding on the sidewalks or riding in public areas, and I realized that this new service would come with additional convenience and probably a lot of enjoyment for a lot of people. But I also know that there are going to be some risks about it. So I'm wondering if there might be you have any comments with regards to how we're going to address those safety issues.
Sure, thank you for the question. I'll note that the bylaw amendments recommended in this report will also create legal routes for e-scooters to operate on arterials and local streets so that riders do not legally need to use sidewalks in order to reach their destinations. And that consistency of the regulatory frameworks for bicycles, e-scooters, and e-bikes will really help the city to have consistent public messaging and education campaigns that can promote good rider behavior. There's also an opportunity with the shared e-scooter system to have additional public campaigns that could be put forward by the operator, where there can be tools such as in-app quizzes that train new riders about where they're able to ride. They can also support safe riding clinics and demos that again help to teach good riding behavior. And in other jurisdictions, it's been seen that a shared e-scooter system helps to model good riding behavior for all e-device users, including those using privately owned devices. And I'll just a final comment, I'll say, over the long term, we know that the best way of mitigating sidewalk riding is to have really good public protected bike lanes and good riding infrastructure. And over the long term, we're certainly as a city working towards that.
And one more question, just for the sake of being sort of on the record here. This is a pilot. And how long is the pilot, and when will we come back and evaluate it?
It is a pilot, and it's a pilot that's enabled by the provincial Motor Vehicle Act e-scooter pilot, which is going to be extended to 2028. And so that, for our purposes now, is as long as we're known to be able to allow these devices in our streets. However, staff will be reporting back on the shared e-scooter pilot earlier than that to give council an update on how the system is operating and to make any necessary adjustments.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions for staff? Okay. So council, we now, are we going to, just one moment here. We're going to we already have a mover and seconder. Is there any debate? Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have some comments to make, and I'm really happy to have this piece in front of us. This does bring us one step closer to launching our shared e-scooter system. And I know that there's been reference, there's a motion in 2022. The first one was actually in 2020, so this has been about a 4-year journey so far. And at the time, I remember the meeting vividly, council received an update to the transportation plan, and part of that was looking at the province's first 3-year pilot, which is just concluding. This is extending it for another 4. And I had motioned that we looked at a shared system because the pilot was limited to privately owned scooters, which in my mind limited the utility of the data because we didn't have the volume that we had at the time. But there's also, I think, equity issues in terms of the affordability of scooters, also trying to stimulate trial and get people into more sustainable green forms of transportation that maybe would like to use a scooter occasionally, but didn't want to or didn't have the means to purchase. And they're not inexpensive to buy one. So I'm really happy to see this moving forward. I think that while it's been some time coming, I will say that the RFP process, which is currently has been underway, and now council's made these changes. There's a few things to note here. Is one that people is, or sometimes we get feedback and people say, is Vancouver allowing them? Well, this is a provincial pilot and the province is setting the regulations around transportation. So this will, in my understanding, simply align us with their regulations and speed. I think the other piece of it is that having a shared system does allow for a greater degree of control than private scooters. And so some people question whether we have the need to have one. I think that we do. And do we need to regulate it? Yes, I think we do, because now we're seeing about a 25% growth in the amount of scooters on our streets. I think the staff report estimates that we could have up to 11% of the devices that are out there are e-scooters. And it simply gives people more choice. We're hearing a lot about the financial woes of TransLink and the ability, our systems at capacity. We're seeing increasing congestion. And we have a busier city. So they're green, they're clean transportation, they're a fun way to get around, they're more affordable, they complement bike share. Stats in other cities show that typically that bike ridership also goes up. I think the staff have been very thoughtful in the RFP that has been put out. I know that part of the evaluation is looking at different technologies that support safety, such as first rider alerts, where you can manage the speeds for that first rider and keep them lower. I think we'll get a lot of information when we get that, when that proponent is selected through the procurement process, which is separate and distinct from the bylaw amendments that we are considering tonight. But, you know, generally speaking, you have the ability to manage speeds and a lot of other things that you don't have the ability to do with the private devices. And so I think the point around regularizing with the province, normalizing something that's already happening, putting the education piece around it is really important. Looking at things like docked systems that avoid some of those early adopters in other cities that had problems with devices that were being left in different places. But I think simply that we want to embrace more options and more choice in the city, and I'm excited to see this coming forward. I'm very excited to see when we get that information coming back to see who the proponent is. And looking forward to seeing our first ones up in the summer of 2024. Our bike share has been popular. I don't see any reason to believe why not. And the last thing I'll say is that this is a pretty low risk endeavor from a financial perspective for the city, because unlike the bike share where the city invested, I think it was $5 million. $5 million from the city funds over 5 years. The direction for the shared service was that it be revenue neutral or it provide incoming revenue to the city, which is also how I understand how the RFP has been structured and asking for proposals to come back. That they look, if they follow a model with respects to licensing fees, citing fees for different locations and revenue share potentially and so on. So I think this has been a really thoughtful rollout, but I think it's time. And I think we need to normalize these kinds of pieces. And the other thing I'll say finally is that I appreciate the comments as well, because the more we switch how people travel around, the more we are able, just like we've been allocating public space and we're looking at a pedestrianized gas town, that we have the ability to support the infrastructure with the use. And I also am encouraged as well that TransLink is a large proponent of micromobility as well and supporting the first and last mile. So appreciate these updates and I'm looking forward to the future ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Meisner.
Yeah, thanks. Councillor Kirby-Young covered all the benefits, I think, of bringing this technology to Vancouver's streets very well. And just want to say thanks again to Councillor Kirby-Young for all her work on this over the years, and staff as well in supporting that. I think this is a great addition to our transportation options in micromobility, especially for people that might be walking, using bike share, et cetera. This will give them another option to get around the city. And I think that having a public e-scooter pilot and system is going to be a much better solution than the alternative, which is going to be people continuing to buy private e-scooters or their own e-scooters that we don't really have any way to have control over in terms of, say, geofencing to ensure they're not going into areas that they shouldn't be, or speed, because they could potentially modify their own personal e-scooters and travel very fast. And I think, personally living downtown, I've seen people, flying down at very high speeds on e-scooters that are privately owned. So I feel that this will really help us have a system that's safe for everybody and accessible, and also, again, just give people more options to move around the city. So very excited about these bylaw amendments. Don't get to say that very often, as a step to moving forward to making this a reality. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Okay, we will take this to a vote. Clerk, can you have they go to the voting panel, please? Okay, that passes with all councillors present in favor. Fantastic. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Kirby-Young, second by Councillor Meiser. All in favor? Very good. This meeting is now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.